Today, President Trump met with Senator Tim Scott, and the issue of race relations was at the top of the agenda. You know, once it was drifting, this whole race relation thing, it was drifting toward oblivion, in fact, into the dustbin of U.S. history as the nation was electing its first black president. Well, now all of a sudden it has leaped to the top of domestic concerns, surging dramatically in the last 3 years. And the big question now is why and what does it mean for our future? I want to bring in a panel now. John Burnett, One Empire Group co-founder and managing director and New York GOP strategic advisor. Pastor Darrell Scott is with us as well, National Diversity Coalition for President Trump CEO, and Gina Loudon, Donald J. Trump for President Advisory Board member. Pastor, I want to start with you. You know, it's every single day these stories and race relations, and I felt like it was an artificial thing being put together by the far left, perhaps puppet masters like Soros and others in the media, but it seems to be catching on to the point where it has become a bona fide issue and problem for our country.
Well, it has turned into propaganda, and when you propagandize the American citizenry, after a while it will begin to take root. It began as a campaign it was a derogatory comment aimed against him for the purpose of political aggrandizement. And since President Trump has won, the left and the liberals continue to try to fuel that narrative so they could point the finger at President Trump and blame him for the division that actually does not exist in this country. Let me tell you something. The black people in this country aren't waking up in the morning saying, I hate the white people, and the white people aren't hating the blacks. The media, the left, is trying to fuel this narrative so that there can be a sense of division that they propagate, and they can blame it on this president and this administration. But it's a false narrative, right. But they're trying to get it to take hold.
I don't disagree with you, but Gina, I do hear more and more from white people who are saying, hey, you know what, we feel like all of us, particularly those who voted for President Trump, are being hit with this broad stroke, white supremacists, that we hate black people, that we hate other people, and that and people are feeling it. All people are feeling this sort of narrative. Well, we know it's artificial, but it is pressuring all of us.
Because the left is a one-trick pony, Charles. They never got beyond their identity politics as the one way they think they can divide people up into little groups and control them. I call it plantation politics. I think it's sicker and in some ways more evil than the sort of slavery we've known in the past, where at least they were saying they were owning slaves. Now, the Democrats want to own people and control them and keep them in tiny little groups where they don't have power so that they can reign over them. And as I like to say many times, they don't, in some cases, care at all if the United States is a graveyard as long as they're the undertaker. It's hurting America, and Americans need to rise up and put a stop to it.
Well, the shots come on a weekly basis. The one that's in the news now is Jamil Hill from ESPN, who said President Trump is a white supremacist, and he surrounds himself with white supremacists. And today, Colin Kaepernick, he tweeted his support for her anti-Trump tweet as well. So, I want to ask you, John. Here's the tweet, by the way. It's a nonstop barrage, and it's a message that a lot of powerful people and entities back because it keeps them powerful. Having certain portions of this population live in anger, fear, and frustration keeps them rich, keeps them powerful, and they won't give that up.
You're absolutely right. Part of the power base of the Democratic Party and their mother's milk, so to speak, that keeps them going strong is the urban vote. And how do they mobilize them? They mobilize them based upon a resistance toward Donald Trump.
And yet it didn't work the way they thought it would with President Trump. Black people did not come out and vote for Hillary Clinton, despite the fact she kept hot sauce in her purse.
Right, exactly. But they continue the same narrative. But here's what's going to happen. President Trump will sign this resolution. He'll issue a statement. But guess what? Both sides, on the right and left, will continue to attack him. So what does he have to do? He has to focus on passing legislation that will empower middle America and those in the urban centers.
Well, we heard the press briefing today, and it sounded like this is a very great meeting between Senator Scott and President Trump. Pastor Scott, I want to give you the last word. How hopeful are you that the American public will see through this, and we'll get back to that trajectory where race relations is no longer something that holds us back?
Well, we're going to dispel that racist narrative from President Trump. I was actually at the White House today. I'll be back tomorrow. And we are discussing some initiatives for urban revitalization, we formed, through the National Diversity Coalition, we formed the Urban Revitalization Coalition. And we have some very, very tangible projects that we're going to be working on that are going to bear fruit very, very soon. And when the American public is able to see tangible manifestations in the urban communities of President Trump's care and concern for our communities, they'll be able to say that entire racist narrative was false. They tried to paint this guy in a portrait of him that didn't exist, and he's not like that after all.
Yeah, let's hope that happens soon, because I'm tired of our country being ripped apart like this. Guys, thank you very, very much.